Hi, guys. Welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 2, Episode 139, Rebirth.
Yes.
The culmination of the tarot reading.
See, the cards do know.
Off the bat, Jester puts forward, I can cast Hero's Feast for us.
Yes, which she's been wanting to do for a couple of episodes now.
Yeah. And they decide, yeah, now's a good time.
Well, I think it's more of a now or never than a now's a good time. Like, we can't put this shit up any longer if we want to benefit from it at any point in the rest of the campaign.
True, yeah. And Rose is correct. It was arguably the best part of the episode.
Yes, most definitely. Especially with the chatter amongst it.
Yeah.
And the descriptions. Other than the craft cheese. If you're going to be able to make anything out of anything, where are you going to use craft cheese for your grilled cheese?
Yeah. We had some attunement changes.
Yep.
Yasha gave Caduceus her ring of protection.
Yep. And
Jester attuned to the ring of fire resistance.
And Caleb took back his luck stone.
Yes. We had the wizards handing out motes of possibility.
Yep.
And confessions going around, and Caduceus doing motivational speech.
Yes.
Which was hilarious, and they were like, oh, you took that feat. This is so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't take Inspiring Leaders, just a spell. Which I think is from Acquisitions Incorporated.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
They took quite a few of the spells from that.
Incite Greed in that one, yeah.
I think there was a Distort Value, too. I think just had Distort Value as well. Which are the three... Like, there's only a handful of spells in that book, and most of them, or about half of them, are reflavorings of current spells. Like, there's a specific guy's version of Magic Missile and things like that.
Oh, gems?
Yeah, because there's only like 6 or 7 spells total, if I remember right. It's been a minute, but it wasn't a huge spell.
No.
So they took quite a bit of that tomes offering and spells between a lot of them.
Yeah.
Which they're great spells. I like them.
Well, Rose, the reason why it gave you engagement ring vibes is because that's how it's been played.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Engagement / pinning the girl in high school kind of thing.
Yeah.
From the 50s.
Your class ring, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been all of those things.
It's been that vibe since the second he realized it was useless in the North. He's like, well, I'll just repurpose it to this.
Well, not quite useless, but
yeah.
He's like, well, it's like you bought a fire resistance ring where we're going where it's frozen. And then it was like, oh, the river of lava. So before they got there, he attuned to it, and it came in handy then.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But when he realized it wasn't the value he thought it was, that's when...
Yeah.
Which, yeah. I mean...
arguably the best PC sort of spark of roleplay was Sam.
Yeah.
And Veth. Is there any confessions we want to make? And I've stolen from all of you.
We know. Like 3 of them at the same time.
I know for sure. Marisha and Laura both were like, we know.
And Ford said it as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was. But you've stolen from me your heart. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have Beth telling Yasha she should have gone for her instead of Bo.
Yeah. Do you think that's just because Sam's character got with Ashley's character last campaign?
I think it's just maybe. I mean, I didn't really think of that. I was just like, you know, Beth is into the well-built, towering figures, whether it's Tabaxi the Minotaur. And
Oh, so you think Yasha's in that group?
I think Yasha's in that group of her type.
Yeah. Yeah. She always has been a little scared of Yasha. So, yeah.
And that's what she likes about those things.
That kind of fits, yeah. Beth and Jester also had their moment together.
Yep.
And Beth and Ford. But the big one, I think, was Beth and Bo.
Yeah.
Where Bo's like, yeah, you're all right. You're kind of a bitch, but that's kind of why I like you.
Yeah. But I mean, arguably that could be said about everybody in the Mighty Nine.
Yeah.
You're kind of a bitch.
Yeah. Caleb had a moment where he brings Frumpkin, sort of the Mighty Nine. And then Laura's like, 1, 2, 3. Well, sprinkle. That makes 10. He's like,
no, bring him back. We're the Mighty 10, the Mighty Omega.
Yeah. We can take out. It's like, Although, probably the single best interaction, for me anyway, was Marisha, hey Caduceus, what happens to grave clerics when they die? And everyone else is like, is this a joke?
Same thing that happens to everything else.
I know Travis didn't appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I did.
I did too. Don't bring that first X-Men movie shit in here. But it's all the same, Captain.
Yeah, so good. And I loved Caduceus's sort of button on the scene.
Yeah.
Let's bury this city.
Yeah.
Which goes to his, I was born for this.
Yeah.
Line. They've gotten the foreshadowing of the energy transfer.
Yep.
And they go in and they see all of it going up. And Laura freaks out a little bit. And the clerics try to will a way up.
Yep.
Caduceus fails and gets an eye. Jester gives them the tunnel.
Yep.
And as an early example in the episode of The Dice Know, Jester rolling again to make it fart when everybody exits is also pretty good. Because it's like, that's definitely something Artagan approves of.
Yeah.
So she succeeds on it. Yeah. So good. But we get the Neo Som Novum reveal.
Yep.
And the 9 eyes, the Beholder-esque.
Yep.
foreshadowing of the encounter design. And Lucian says, "We welcome you. I welcome you." So he's having the difficulty of I or we.
Yes.
And as we predicted, they let him monologue.
Yep.
And Ford almost kicked it off right away.
Yeah.
But Bo saved him because Ford's like, well, you left us alive. I left you. Why did I leave you alive? She's like, well, you need an audience. Yeah, that's it. Which also helps set up the mechanic he had in the fight for them using their bonus action.
Yeah.
To try to connect.
To reduce the number of legendary actions.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
And needed.
Yes, because he had a ton of legendary actions.
Not because he had a ton of them. Of what they could do.
Yeah, that too.
And they're like, it's like, Molly? No. Jester sang the song.
Yep.
And Matt rolled behind the screen.
Yeah.
And then Bo says, or no, he says, it's time for me to take the city home, or where this all began. Now that we're here, he's had the death cry, or the birth cry.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to take the city back. Where's the threshold crest? And as he's like saying it's time to go, Caleb's like, let's wait. Trying to buy them time.
Right.
I don't know why he was trying to do that. Maybe so that it didn't it wouldn't kick off right away. But I don't really understand why they would do that.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is that they wanted a chance to, before combat kicked off, to see if they could get Molly to exert any control.
Well, this gets back to Matt being the hopeful DM. He tends to. He's much more Tolkien that way.
Mm-hmm.
He'll do bittersweet stuff.
Yeah.
But by and large, he's looking for the happy ending. And the happy ending for the Mighty Nine is stopping the Somnovum and getting Molly back.
Yeah.
Even if that means Molly dies.
Yeah.
But
the Darth Vader scene.
Exactly. And all of this was part of that and representing that mechanically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Matt had always planned for that to be part of the final confrontation. But certainly as the players were having their doubts and expressing hesitance in confronting Lucian.
Yeah.
I think that certainly helped inform the design of that fight. And because they drug their feet for so long in any confrontation with him, Matt had the time to change, tweak the exact mechanics of the fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He threatens to send visions of the pattern to their families.
Yep.
And Veth says they don't steal from good people. And I almost I wonder if they sort of got together and wrote down phrases.
Oh, maybe.
That Molly said to each of them. And I liked that Taliesin didn't do any of that.
Yeah. Because he wasn't there for it.
Yeah. The only thing he had for Lucian was Path to the Grave.
Yep.
And
he's still got one more use of it.
Yeah. And Bo saying the charm is here is what Matt got to say roll initiative.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that connection. Do you?
I don't.
Because everyone else's I got right away. But that one, I was like, why would that set him off? Rose, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Yeah, it was. But I mean, it is what it is. But we said it would be about 40 minutes before the fight started.
Yeah.
And it was about 40 minutes before the fight started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the dice continue to demonstrate their knowledge of the of how things go, with the Somnovum getting initiative, rolling a natural 20. Rose. Like I said, Marisha's reactions, Matt's reactions, I was having trouble placing it, but it's obviously something that they remember.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the
and it may
couple
even
of
be
deep combos that Bo and Molly had together.
Well, it may not even have been a deep conversation. It may have been something that was said offhand. That on the car ride home, Marisha reflected to Matt.
Maybe.
On.
For some reason, I kept going back to the one time when they talked about being the change and leaving places better. And I don't remember there being a charm in that conversation, but for some reason, every time I watched it, my mind went to that conversation. So I don't know if it's something I'm not remembering that was in that conversation, but it triggered that conversation every time that it played in this episode. That's why I say.
Yeah, that may have been it.
But that, I was confused too because I didn't remember and I don't know why my brain triggered that one specific conversation each time.
It may have been his coat. Because he, each god, it was a charm or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Okay. That could very
That
well
might be it. Now that you say that and we're racking our brains. That might have been it.
So.
Cool. Get an odd situation where Veth and Caduceus both roll the same initiative at the bottom.
Yeah.
And they say, well, do you want to go... Taliesin says, well, do you want to go after me? Because I want to use Path to the Grave.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, yeah, sure. Sam doesn't care. So... Lisa, right. First episode. Intro to Yasha as the charm. Oh, yeah.
You're right. Okay.
That's right.
Which would be why it would be a trigger for Bo as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Good. Good on ya. I had forgotten about that.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. We get because Lucian has initiative. We get a look at the main design of the Neo Somnova, and that is he has multi-attack. He makes 2 Gaze of the Somnovum actions, and then he can use a melee attack or an extra eye attack.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, I like that the saves for the eyes were all minus the number of eyes you have. Because honestly, and I've said it, this whole arc, this whole scene, the scenery is right up my alley, the stuff that I get really into. And you know me, I would be the Caleb, I would be the one with the most eyes because let's fuck with this, let's see how far down the rabbit hole we can go and still make it back. And I would be screwed in this battle.
Yes. Exactly. But here's why I say, like, it was important for them to be removing those legendary actions. Mm-hmm. Not because of the number that he had, but what they could do.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember the name of the wizard. Doesn't really matter, they're dead. The one that would put the eye on you, the extra eye, and charm you.
Yeah.
And we saw with Caduceus near the end, pull you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a death spiral mechanic.
Yeah.
And then he's got 2 death spiral mechanics built into this thing. One, he's going to place more eyes on you, lowering your save threshold. One of the eyes gives you disadvantage on saves.
Yep.
So now you've got this just potential death spiral happening. But because they figure out the bonus action thing, it saved him from that.
Yeah.
From the full brunt of that. The Ring of Fire Resistance pays off in the first turn.
Yep.
And no one was happier about that than Travis. Yeah.
Because I think that's the first moment he shed the buyer's remorse. That he got the instant he bought the ring and someone said, "We're going where it's frozen." Even like at the lava river, even though it was helpful then, I think he still had buyer's remorse over the ring.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's the first instant where, okay, at this moment there's no buyer's remorse for that ring.
Yeah. And Matt also giving them hints about devoting a portion of their turn.
Yeah.
Are you saying this offhand to you, or are you trying to connect with him? The first one was, I'm just doing it offhand. And then later with Yasha, you have to use a portion of your turn.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. And then as soon as they see it and see what effect it has, everyone's lining up to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And do we see how powerful Matt views clerics with the placement of the anti-magic cone?
Yeah.
Because it starts off encompassing Jester. And first turn, so right before Caduceus' turn, legendary actions puts him right in the middle of it.
Yep.
And the whole fight, he's trying to put Jester in it, or Caduceus.
Yep.
So, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. We had a moment where Liam requested clarification on their house rule.
Yeah.
About potions being a bonus action to consume. And Matt tried to fall back on, well, what does the item say? Well, the item description doesn't have to say anything because rules is written, all potions take an action to drink.
Yeah.
So it's only if it takes longer than that is it going to say anything. And Liam says it tastes like mud. And Matt's like, well, yeah, I'll allow it.
Right. Which, yeah, the potion thing hasn't really come up as much as it did in campaign 1.
Well, no, they have 2 clerics.
So, yeah.
I mean, even though one of them doesn't heal.
They went from a part-time available cleric to 2 full-time clerics.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really cuts down the need for the healing potions.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It hasn't come up, but Matt's like, yeah, I'll let you have it. And he says to Ford, when Ford fails his save, all your mistakes and all the people you've wronged weigh on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, Ford is fucked.
Yeah.
And he was.
Mm-hmm.
For 3 rounds.
Yep.
He was slowed. And this sort of gets back to, the dice know.
I was just going to say, and the dice know, which the fact that he kept failing just validates my argument.
That Ford is
the dice are on my side about it.
Well, I was just, like, in my mind, I was like, I'm happy he's suffering some consequences for his actions.
Well, and here's the thing, okay? He does almost nothing for those 3 turns. I mean, yes, he's slowed in. He can do almost nothing, but he's not even really trying.
He's doing the one thing he can do. As the person with the 20 charisma, trained in persuasion. He's stripping him of his legendary actions. Because Ford is the only one who succeeded all the times he tried.
Yeah.
So hats off to Travis for, playing to his strengths. But, because arguably, he was preventing between 40 and 100 damage a turn.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it was the part where he runs and hides in the tower. And I'm just like...
well, to me, that was... I don't know. I love that part. Because that is who Ford is.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those moments where combat is roleplay.
Yeah, no, and I agree. But I'm just saying.
Ford is not the hero paladin he thinks he is.
Yes. There's a reason why he's 3 levels of paladin and 12 of warlock.
Yeah.
And again,
Ford tough all in his glory. Yes, Rose.
And don't get me wrong, I love Ford, I love Travis. But I'm going to harp on it because he insists that he's not evil.
Yeah.
Like I said, Caleb also evil. I don't have to harp on that because Caleb admits he's evil.
I did like Lucian's reaction to Ford's opening salvo.
Yeah.
Over 30 damage. And he doesn't give a fuck. Barely makes a mark on him.
Well, they did well over 600 points of damage to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that puts him in the ballpark of a Tarask in hit points. Because Tarask only has 676. And they did at least 630. Which puts pre-evolution the base Pokemon Lucian. Or I guess technically this is the mid-level Pokemon.
Yeah.
At Terrask level hit points. So.
Yeah. In the I wasn't necessarily keeping track of exactly how much damage they were doing. And I think arguably Veth's attack probably reduced him to 0 hit points.
Okay.
But the narrative of the combat is he reaches 0 hit points. He runs away.
It's the trigger for him to go and take final form.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I figured too, but and I'm 90% sure they did between 630 and 640, somewhere in that ballpark of damage to him. It was just shy of 650. So.
Yeah. Damn. Oh, and the other rules question that I had was about the haste.
Yeah.
About who concentrates on that.
Yeah.
I remembered that it's a Dunamis ability to cast a spell and basically store it for later.
Yeah.
Which Terry in campaign 1 had an ability similar. You put it in a coin. And
yeah, it was the UA version of the Artificer could do that.
Yeah. But it wasn't made clear who was going to be concentrating on the haste.
Right.
When it was activated. And they were like, oh, let's give it... They were like, Bo or Yasha, the monk or the barbarian. Give it to the barbarian. Because Marisha was like, I already have a lot of ways to get attacks.
Yeah.
So... but she raged. So if it's the person who activates it that has to concentrate, it would have went away when she raged.
Right, which was right before she did it.
Yeah. And if it's Yusa, then there's no problem. Because he didn't cast another concentration spell.
Right.
The whole fight. So.
Yeah.
Unless through the casting of that Dunamancy ability, because I haven't read it in a long time, that's built into it. Yeah. Into that use of the ability. That it will just last for the duration.
Yeah, I have to reread it as well.
But that's just a small part of the pile of rules that Matt bent to better help the players. Because the first one that he does is he lets that fireball trigger Caduceus' spell. Of when you get hit, your next attack has advantage. That spell specifies an attack, not that you are damaged.
Yeah. And when it requires a saving throw, it is not technically an attack.
Correct. And Matt says you're going to need all the help you can get. And I was like, yeah, okay. And Yasha gets charmed. So, sort of, how we doing? Oh, same as always. That bad, eh?
Yep.
And again, the dice. And Ashley arguably pulling a Babe Ruth, calling her shot.
Okay.
When she goes, I'm going to get a dice that I think is going to roll badly. Yoink. Big one. Natural 1. 7 plus 12, 19. And she's worried she hit Bo. And when she says 19, I'm like, oh, cool. And Marisha's like, that misses. And she's like, oh, rolls again, another natural 1.
Yep.
Kisses the die, puts it back in the bag.
Yep.
Laura wishes she could do that.
Yes.
Ah, so good. Yeah, so good. I kind of hope that Yasha does, just because of that, I kind of want her to play a divination wizard.
That would be great.
Just because, I mean, I don't think anyone at the table has ever called a die roll.
True.
But we get Yusa or Essek dispels the charm.
Yep.
Then he gets charmed.
Yep.
And
I got worried there.
Yeah. Well, especially when Jester drew their ire and ducked behind
Yep.
the roof, and Essek was right behind her.
Yeah.
With that orange counter on top of it, I'm just like,
Yep. Until Caleb swooped in.
Yeah. And she dispelled the magic off Ford.
Right.
And then I was
Jester
like,
protects Ford.
Oh no. And Caleb protects Jester.
Yeah, because he flies up and with that scroll that he's got, he tries to protect her.
No, he just flew into range to be able to cast Dispel Magic on her.
Oh, okay.
Or on Essek. The person he was trying to keep inside his protection was them.
Well, he kept Feth in there for a while, he kept Bo in there for a while, but he also put Jester in there intentionally at one point. Because he was like, I go by Jester. And that's why he was specifically saying, I fly by these individual people, was to protect them.
Yeah. But after Yasha gets charmed, we go to break.
Yep.
And we come back from break, and so we had 2 rounds before the break, and then 3 rounds after the break. Yep. 75 minutes for 3 rounds of combat. So, this week's episode may be the last episode. You were saying it might go to 141.
Yeah, just because the 141 just being kind of
the denouement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the 2-part Vecna fight.
Yes. And the second one was 5.5 hours long. But I think he's going to be gargantuan size.
He is. He's the city. He is literally attached to the city.
Yeah, but I mean the mini is going to be the size of the Vecna mini.
Okay, yeah.
Or the Thordak.
Yeah.
It will be that big.
Well, I think they'll be able to attack the city in ways that they couldn't attack him. I think like Contagion would have a much better effect hitting the city than it did on him directly. Because I don't know that the merge is complete.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking is if they can disrupt the city enough, force it to disconnect from him, and then be able to take him out.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
And that especially works if the contingent for him to go and connect is hitting 0 hit points. So now while he's attached, he's drawing on the pool of hit points that is the city. They disconnect him, land a good hit, and end him.
If that's the case, then there will be 9 points for them.
Yes,
to attack.
that's why the 9 eyes are not there anymore.
Okay.
They are spread out through this area.
If he does that, that will be the most video game encounter design that Matt has done.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of doubt that that's what's going to be.
He did say it's his love letter to Final Fantasy. He said that jokingly, but when they talked about the new form.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where my mind went.
Okay.
With how, especially when you said the eyes are not there anymore. Well, the eyes are still somewhere. And I think they're going to be able to, I think they're going to realize where they are because they're going to be attacked from different angles.
I agree with you there. I was considering it as Matt was using them as legendary actions and basically used a beholder design in the Lucian fight. And now it's going to be a layer action situation. So it will be a layer action and legendary actions in this next fight. And I think, because my feeling is the city will do something, or the cavern will do something to them. And the legendary actions now are going to be straight up spells. That's my feeling. Because if there are spells, that tempts Ford, Caleb, and maybe even Essek to burn their resources for a counterspell.
Gotcha.
Which they couldn't do in the Neo Somnovum fight.
Right.
Even though the one eye was obviously doing Fireball.
Right.
Which is also why he's more dangerous than a Beholder. Because the Beholder doesn't have area effect rays. It's just a single target each ray.
Yeah. And I think he's going to have like a Dragon Wing Buffet attack with those wings.
Yes. Yeah.
Damage plus Saber prone.
Which is 2 legendary actions on a dragon.
Yeah.
Now my mind is racing to try to think of what he's gonna, if it is gonna be a dragon, that the next fight is based on. Because we haven't really had a dragon fight this campaign.
Other than Gilladon.
Whereas last campaign we had 5 of them. So or it could be a demon or devil.
Could be. Especially with the reference to you see the visage of the, lineage.
Yeah, and specifically demonic, he said.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Although I struggle to think of any demon that has layer actions. Because most of them are not designed to be in the layer, so to speak.
Yeah. Just the demon princess, I think.
Yeah.
In Morning Canaans.
So he might be using something out of that.
Yeah.
Reskin something out of that.
Could be.
The eyes will still have to be relevant. So any saving throws they make is probably still going to be subtracted.
Yeah.
Or that's a lot of dice rolling. I don't know. That might take too much time. Because I was thinking about if the layer action is you face an attack from a citizen for each eye that you have. Unless that becomes the attack bonus to that attack. That might be it.
That could be.
But that just, I don't, yeah, it would be better for it to be the attack bonus and the damage bonus of the attack.
Yeah.
If we even see people, because we might not.
Yeah, I don't think we are. I think we're going to see a bunch of eyes.
Yeah. Well, do we want to talk about resources? Because that sort of determines the survivability.
Yeah, I checked crit roll stats, and they're not in great shape, but they're in a lot better shape than I thought they were.
Yeah.
Bo, out of expendable resources, is at 116 of 145 and has 10 over 15 key points.
Yeah, not a big key point in that fight, just because she can't stun him.
Right.
So, which is usually where she spends her key.
Right. So, you know, I see the key being used, obviously flurry of blows, but I think we're going to see it used to get an extra reaction if something misses her to attack it, especially if those eyes do attack rolls now. You know, because she can zip around and pop a ball.
Well, and her Sentinel ability might be able to proc a lot more. If he's that much bigger, and he may even have like a reach, so he can hit a lot more people. So she can just keep hitting him by spending the key.
Yep.
And she still has that 2d8.
Yeah, the holy weapon. So, you know, and I don't know that she's going to go patient defense a lot. I think she's going to opt for flurry over patient defense. Not
until she's down to about 30 hit points.
Yeah.
She might do it then.
She might do it then. Caduceus is at full health.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty decent on spells. He's out of his 8th and 6th, but he's got some of every other level. He's got all 5 uses of Sentinel at Death's Door.
Yep.
Meaning he can negate crits.
Which, in that first fight, didn't matter because none of them were attack rolls. They were all saving throws. Right. Which... Does Matt design... Well, I will ask the question, but I also am going to answer it. Does Matt design this fight so that Lucian, the Nonagon, the Cognosa never make an attack roll? So that Caduceus cannot cancel any of his crits?
No.
That's my answer too.
Because that's not the type of DM Matt is.
Yeah, agree.
He's not going to bring him to the penultimate fight and then rob him of arguably one of his best resources and say, no, that's pointless.
Yeah.
And not that it's likely to go off, but he does have divine intervention.
Yes.
He has other things like his eyes to the grave, but I don't think that's something we need to talk about. That's not really useful. The ability to see undead.
Yeah, we've talked about, well, you mentioned that you think there will be a mechanic to separate him from the city. Do you think Taliesin senses that and uses divine intervention to shortcut all of it?
He could.
Just uses divine intervention, separate all of these souls immediately.
Yeah, I think that's right up Taliesin and Caduceus's alley.
Yeah.
And that would be a killer move.
Yeah, so good.
That would be Scanlan 9th level counterspell level move.
Yeah.
That's campaign MVP move. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Caleb, full health and over 100 hit points. Thanks to the 17 from Hero's Feast. He's also decent on spells. He's about the same level as Caduceus, a few lower on the second level. Big thing, he still has his shape changer. So he's got a free polymorph for that extra hit point.
Yeah, if he needs it, yeah.
You know.
But one of the things he has that no one else has is Allura's staff.
And
all
15 charges on Allura's staff. Which can cast things like Globe of Invulnerability, which can cast things like Disintegrate.
Yeah. Fireball, I think.
Fireball. Worst case, Caleb's fantasy, dreams of dying like a martyr, to quote Hamilton. He can break it.
If there's a swallow mechanic in the fight, and Caleb gets swallowed, he's going to break it.
If there's a swallow mechanic in the fight, he pulls a Tommy Lee Jones from Men in Black. Eat me! And he goes in and does the sacrifice thing.
Yeah. Now here's a question, and I asked this only because of your character you played in the last campaign. If you are on the Astral Sea,
okay,
and you put a bag of holding inside of a bag of holding, or if they put the bag of holding inside Jester's haversack, what happens? Where do you go? Is it a teleport somewhere else under the Astral Sea? Is it force damage?
I would rule it. Okay, here's how
I get turned inside out.
Here's how I would rule it. Like banishment. You're sent back to your plane of origin. Or a pocket.
Okay.
However, no time limit on the pocket dimension.
Oh, you're just there forever.
You're just there, short of you being able to plane shift or a wish spell.
Bringing you out of it, yeah.
That's how I would rule it. Either that or you're sent to a random plane.
Not that that's going to be relevant to the fight or anything. It's just something that just occurred to me.
That's also the one downside of the Genie Warlock and the shenanigans that I've come up with that. That's an extra dimensional space. So your Genie can't take his bag of holding with it, or your Warlock can't take his bag of holding with him. Or it destroys the bottle and sends you to the astral plane.
Yeah.
No one, and then when you hit the level where you can bring your party in, no one can bring haversacks or bags of holding in. You gotta leave all that shit outside unguarded.
Oh, man. Another random encounter idea.
Exactly. My thoughts exactly. Moving on. Ford. 198 out of 200 hit points.
Yep.
He still has 2 of his Warlock spells and all of his Paladin spells.
Yeah.
He still has his Arcane Gate. He still has his Lay on Hands ability. And he still has the Accursed Spectre. Which I don't know that he'll get to use unless he kills one of the eyes and can raise that as a Spectre.
Yeah.
But that's going on how he rules the eyes.
Yeah.
And
or if he has spectral.
Yeah.
That he spawns
or if
specters.
they're citizens.
Yeah.
Jester, the most damage. She's at 102 out of 163 hit points.
She got hit with Finger of Death basically twice.
She's also wiped out of all her 6th level and higher slots, and has only half of her 5th levels. So she's got the least as far as spell power packed away left.
Which is typical of Laura's play.
Yes.
She works downward.
Yeah. She does have one channel divinity, which Caduceus does as well. They both have one left. She has her Hellish Rebuke as a tiefling.
Yep.
Because she couldn't use that because it wasn't an attack. Because she asked about that in the last fight.
Yeah.
And she still has Divine Intervention.
Yeah.
So, Veth is 118 out of 119. She has 4 first levels and 1 second level.
And most of her spells are going to be useless because Lucian can see through illusions and is immune to being charmed.
Most of her spells are going to be Bernado's Full Take Bolt.
Mm.
That's all I see her using
the
spell slots on. Yasha is full health because of the healing after the thing. She's got 4 out of her 5 rages left. She has her healing hands, her racial ability.
Yep.
So, we've got some healing there, besides the cleric spells that are left. She has her Radiant Soul still.
Yeah, which has been less important because they can fly on the Astral Sea.
But
the extra damage. Yeah.
So that could come in handy. And then Essek, he's still at full health, and crit rule stats just based him on a 15th level wizard for what he's got left, even though I think he's higher than that.
No.
You don't think he's higher?
No.
Because he's always been a bit higher than the 99.
No. I peg him probably between 12 and 14, actually. I don't think he's even 15.
Okay. Well, per the 15th, he still has a 7th and an 8th, and then comparable with the rest of the group on the lower level end of things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he couldn't have 4 spell slots, first level spells, because Fortune's Favor is a first level spell. And he casts 3 of that.
True. Again, these numbers are from crit roll stats.
Okay.
So, yeah, that would be leaving him at 1 there.
Yeah, but like we say, because Matt figured out how to give them the long rest immediately, and because they then did the Heroes Feast, they have most of their resources going into the Lucian fight. They didn't use a whole bunch in that fight.
Yep.
Especially Ford being hobbled as he was. So I think Travis is going to try to get in and Alpha strike him.
Yeah.
And if Caduceus can path to the grave, and if he can...
Yeah, I think we're going to see Ford's spell slots used for smites.
Yeah.
We're not summoning his demon buddy. We're not doing shit like that.
Yeah. So there are lots of ways that they could self-sacrifice, but I think they're going to win.
I can see him using Arcane Gate just to get someone to a position they need to be.
Yeah. Well, and especially because it persists, so it allows some mobility on the battlefield. And maybe they set up like an aid station.
Yeah.
To go back and be able to heal or whatever. So, yeah. And I do think if 140 is the end, combat goes till after break, and then the last 40 minutes of the episode is the denouement. Or
Okay.
the fight goes the whole thing, and we get one more episode with let's tie loose ends.
And that's what. And my prediction for loose end tying, Caleb will become the new Archmage of Antiquities. He's now qualified for the job, having explored Aeor, learned things about Aeor that none of the other Archmages knew, as far as we can tell, and been to Cognoza.
Yeah.
He is uniquely qualified for that position, and he becomes the checks and balances to Trent, and possibly even helps Astrid replace him.
Yeah, I can see that. But we're going to go enjoy Talks, and we will see you guys next week.
I guess.